Let's take a look at a little JavaScript clock here. So to do something interesting with this, right now it's just writing the current time out. But to do something interesting, let's create a function called pipe that is going to accumulate or reduce an array, a list of functions here, and compose them in such a way that each function is called with the accumulated result of the previous functions in the pipeline. So this is kind of a left to right accumulation method here. So we'll see if we can get the same functionality through this using the pipe, and we do. It behaves the same way. And now we can start to do more interesting things. We're going to want to have a data structure eventually, but first let's see if we can just make this behave a little bit more like a normal clock. We're going to clear the console once a second, so we just need to add our new clear console method to our pipeline. Again, we're calling these functions implicitly. Another thing to note is the functions we're going to create are pure functions. They are not modifying the arguments, but rather they are copying and then modifying the copies or enhancing and then returning that. So mutation is not happening here. But to get an object, first we're going to take that date from the built-in JavaScript function, and let's create a JavaScript object that we can do the more interesting operations on. Calling some functions on that JavaScript date, and we end up with an object here with the 3 attributes: hours, minutes, and seconds. And so when we put this into our pipeline, well, first of all, it needs to get that built-in JavaScript date to operate on, but then when we run it, we see that what we're writing to console is our object itself. So it doesn't look too much like a clock at the moment, but we're going to fix that with a format function. So this is a higher order function. It's going to return, well, I should say it's going to have a fixed argument that is the template, a string that defines the way we want our time to look, our clock to look, and then it's going to return a function that takes a clock time argument, which is the actual object that once a second is changing and once a second is being passed from function to function to function in our pipeline. And all we're going to do is we've defined a little kind of encoding, a little language in which HH stands for hours and so on. And here we're defining our fixed argument. We still have a few problems. We have single-digit minutes and seconds there. So let's solve that with another concept here in our pipeline. Double-digit time. This time we're going to use that pipe function that we started off with to build a little sub-algorithm, a little little guy that takes a JavaScript object and looks for variously named attributes on it and prepends 0 when appropriate. We're going to start off by, we're going to kick that pipeline off by passing in the clock time as it comes through each second. Of course, we have to define a method for prepending that 0. So again, it's a pure function, so we're going to make a copy and then enhance that copy with the logic to prepend when appropriate. So for values between 0 and 9, we'll throw a 0 in front. Otherwise, we'll just return the original value. There we have a 0. It's looking a little more like a digital clock. So yeah, spread operator is a nice notation for creating a copy for these pure functions that we want to work with. So there are, let's see, since we're not in the military, we might want to provide a more friendly 12-hour time format. So specify that as a part of our pipeline. And again, spread operator, starting to see a pattern. Spread operator helps us by copying, creating a copy of our input, and then we just enhance that as needed. And while we're here, we might as well add do another enhancement. Add a field to indicate whether it's AM or PM. This will make the clock a little friendlier to viewers of it. And a little helper function here to determine the logic behind that. Now this AM/PM field that we just added to our clock time object does not show up. Why not? Well, we haven't added it to our format string. So we need to establish a little code, a little replacement code there. So, and then modify the format so that we can display the value in place. And there we go, although it actually should be PM, so there's a bug. Exercise for the reader to find that. I think in the remaining time, I want to talk about debugging or tracing through our code so we can actually watch the transformations as they are of the data as it flows through. So for this, we're going to use another higher order function, another function returning a function. The fixed argument here is a label. That'll help us to know where we are in the code. And let's just log the label. And we'll log the value of our clock time as it passes down the list. It's important that we return the input value here because as we've seen before, all the subsequent functions require that value to be flowing down from function to function in the pipeline. So that's important to do that. Return there in the trace function. Fixed arguments, as I said, are specified here. Those will be our labels. And then we'll debug the heck out of it. And there we can see how each second we get a different value, and we can see how that is progressively enhanced or modified as it passes down through our pipeline.